When you download the iHeartRadio app and put the W. Dean Shook Show on your list of stations, you will prove to the world that you're a little bit smarter than everyone else. The W. Dean Shook Show, your connection to the signs of the times.
Now, you have a source for the truth in the news. W. Dean Shook, End Time News. Your connection to the signs of the times.
And welcome to End Time News. I'm your host, W. Dean Shook, trying my best to keep up with this news. It's happening so fast. Remember, we have a new feature on our website, live 24/7 breaking news. If you scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, you'll find breakingnews.com being streamed live with live editors posting as it breaks. We're going to start this update with a Democratic bill that dubs illegals state citizens. They'd be allowed to vote and granted driver's license. According to the Washington Times, New York illegal immigrants would get the title of state citizens, allowing them benefits such as the right to vote and obtain driver's license if State Senator Rivera's bill comes to fruition. The bill would require illegals to prove that they've paid taxes in the state for at least 3 years and take a vow that they'll maintain state laws. The New York Daily News reported, but critics call the provision ridiculous, given that the individuals who are targeted by the bill are already breaking the law by living in this country illegally. Specifically, the bill would let those who obtain the state citizens label vote in the state and local elections as well as seek public office. They could also get driver's licenses, professional business permits and licenses, Medicaid, in-state tuition benefits, and other financial aid, as well as any other benefits that are controlled by the state. The New York Daily News reported that the bill could not change provisions for benefits that are under the control of the federal law. And let me also share with you a WND exclusive. Illegal Crisis is bringing a surprise patrol to the border. In New York, with the Obama administration reportedly prohibiting Border Patrol agents from talking to journalists about the thousands of youthful illegal aliens housed in detention centers in the Southwest. U.S. Representative Steve King, a Republican from Iowa, says he's organizing his own Border Patrol. It's going to consist of members of Congress so they can see for themselves the reality of what's being described as an unprecedented humanitarian crisis. He said, "I'm afraid President Obama is going to do nothing to secure our border with Mexico. Right now, the United States effectively has no border with Mexico, and the borders in Central America all the way down to Panama appear to be wide open as well. In recent weeks and months, tens of thousands of children, many from Central America, have flooded across the Mexican border into the United States, apparently unaccompanied. Obama's critics contend the multitudes of youthful illegals are being irresistibly drawn by Obama's announcement of a de facto amnesty for children who are in the United States illegally. Obama implemented the policy about the time of his re-election, and he just recently renewed it. It creates a priority for legitimizing juveniles who are in the U.S. illegally and unaccompanied. Obama has asked for massive federal spending to provide this particular demographic of illegals all the benefits of American society, from education to health care. Many are being housed in detention centers across the Southwest, while others are being given travel vouchers to other parts of the nation if they have relatives already in the U.S. But AP reported obtaining an email from Mr. Pena, an assistant patrol agent, ordering more than 3,000 agents not to speak to reporters about the humanitarian crisis. The warning included a notice that agents who disobey could be disciplined or charged criminally. King said he was well aware the Obama administration has tried to put a lid on information emerging from this DHS detention center in Texas, including cautioning Border Patrol agents with consequences adverse to their careers should they dare to provide information to news reporters. Right now, DHS is denying anyone the opportunity to talk to those working in the DHS detention center or asking any questions, King said. You have to leave your cell phones outside. What I want is to test whether the Obama administration is going to deny me and a congressional delegation that I bring the opportunity to see what we want to see and ask the questions we want to ask. King told WMND he wants to challenge the Obama administration's attempt to keep the American people from knowing the truth about this developing crisis. And you can read this full story at wdeanshook.com. Well, here's another result of an open border. Liquid meth floods across the California border as the U.S.-Mexican border has been inundated with children crossing alone and ending up detained in U.S. facilities. Liquid methamphetamines are also flowing across the border. The liquid form allows smugglers to disguise the substance in beverage and plastic containers until reaching a meth house where it's cooked down to crystal form to be sold. An Associated Press report quoted John Donnelly, once in charge of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration in Fresno, who said at the Central Valley, "We're the source point for Seattle, Portland, Alaska, and as far east as the Carolinas." The Central Valley is not the only place where traffickers are getting caught. Down at the border, a 16-year-old suspected of smuggling volunteered to take a big sip to convince inspectors the liquid he had was only apple juice, not meth. The teenager began screaming in pain and died within hours, according to this report by the AP. In late May this year, 5 adult males were arrested in connection with Modesto cocaine and meth trafficking ring, according to News 10. 170 pounds of crystal meth was seized March 20th in Fresno through a joint effort between federal authorities and California Department of Justice. No arrests were made at the time of the raid on the Madera residence. A California Department of Justice report determined that Mexico-based transitional criminal organizations are suspected of trafficking 70% of the supply of methamphetamine through the San Diego port of entry alone. Meanwhile, Customs and Border Protection officers with scarce resources are battling mass amounts of people, including many young children, crossing the U.S. southern border, leaving the U.S.-Mexican border even more vulnerable. Breitbart's Brandon Daly recorded comments made by a National Border Patrol Council Vice President Sean Moran regarding the stress on the Border Patrol agents and influx of illegal aliens. Since the CPB started reducing the hours agents can work, we've seen an overall increase in smuggling and illegal alien crossing. And I'd also like to share another WND exclusive. The U.S. thrusts the gay agenda on the world. Barack Obama has integrated promotions of homosexuality and other alternative lifestyle choices into his policy and practice since his election, successfully promoting the gay lifestyle in the U.S. military and forbidding the enforcement of federal law called the Defense of Marriage Act that supported traditional marriage. The extent of the reach of his action perhaps was epitomized by last week's announcement that the U.S. Embassy in Israel was flying a rainbow flag representing homosexual activism along with Old Glory. But now a coalition in Congress made up exclusively of Democrats wants to take the effort further and make promoting LGBT human rights a priority for the U.S. government worldwide. Prepared by Senator Ed Markey, a Democrat from Massachusetts, the International Human Rights Defense Act would demand that the State Department make preventing and responding to discrimination and violence against the LGBT community a foreign policy priority and devise a global strategy to achieve those goals. It also would create a job for a federal bureaucrat specifically to do those promotions. Markey, who was joined by more than a dozen other Democrats in affirming the new guidelines for a worldwide campaign for the U.S., he said in a statement on Friday, "There's more than 80 nations around the world that criminalize homosexuality. In 7 countries, homosexuality is punishable by death. For the United States to hold true to our commitment for defending the human rights of all people around the world, we must stand with the LGBT community in their struggle for recognition and equality everywhere," Markey said. The International Human Rights Defense Act We'll foster a coordinated effort across the federal government and relevant agencies so we can meet the enormous challenge before us and work to ensure quality for all people around the globe. So where is our Secretary of Defense during all of these crises? With the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria advancing rapidly through Iraq, posting images of their brutal mass executions, plans have begun to evacuate America's embassy in Baghdad. In Washington, however, Secretary of State John Kerry hosted a conference on the world's real vital security issue. That's right, climate change. Kerry, who has remarked intermittently in interviews on the current crisis in Iraq, spent the morning hosting the State Department's Our Ocean Conference, a summit of 80 countries and academic experts designed to engage global leaders in the discussion on how to save the world's ocean from the effect of climate change. There, Secretary Kerry announced that the world had a shared responsibility to keep the seas clean and encourage global leaders to see climate change and the protection of the seas as a national security issue, not an environmental one. Kerry addressed preemptive concerns that he was focusing time on climate change when the world required his attention on much graver and more immediate threats. For anyone who questions why we're here when there are so many areas of conflict and so many issues of vital concerns as there are, he announced, no one should mistake that the protection of our ocean is a vital international security issue. Kerry also noted because of the conflict in Iraq, he would not be able to attend every event at the conference. Kerry, nonetheless, opened the conference with warnings that climate change poses an immediate threat to the world, one that requires addressing before he works to remedy the situation in Iraq. You can get these full stories and more at the website. And don't forget, this show lives by our sponsors. GoDaddy is our main sponsor. If you go to our webpage at wdeanshook.com, you'll see a banner at the bottom where you can search your own domain name for as little as $5.99 a year. Your own domain name, your own email. Please visit and support our sponsors. I'll see you on our next update. I'm your host, W. Dean Shook. Thank you very much.
You can get these full stories and more at wdeanshook.com. That's wdeanshook.com.